So, I'm going to initiate a series here in which I talk about my own experience and how I've come to understand that experience. The goal here is to give you the opportunity to recognize your own experience that I suspect many of you have had, and to see it in terms of the development of consciousness to the dissolution of delusion. And to suggest that there is a right relationship to experience in which one is neither making too much or too little of one's own experience, and in which one allows the experience to change their perception and understanding. So, I want to reflect first on some experiences before arriving at Daoist cultivation or any kind of cultivation. There is a sense in which simply living life is a form of cultivation. Maturation, if embraced, is a form of cultivation. We put these lines around it, and it becomes a sharper tool when we follow a particular path. But it is something that we do if we're paying attention, I suppose, sometimes even if we're not. So I may get some of these out of order, but some experiences that I had growing up that I would later come to think of as relevant in this development of consciousness include a moment when I was playing volleyball on a team in high school. And there was nothing special about the moment, nothing externally, nothing. I wasn't underslept or overslept, or all there was kind of a vigorous exercise in a stimulation-filled environment, like a loud gymnasium, squeaking shoes, and dripping with sweat. And we gathered around the coach in a time between points or games or something. And my optical perception had a sudden shift in which everything was kind of granular and sparkling, and quite a lot like this was before the movie Matrix came out, but it was quite a lot like these kind of streams of binary information and a dissolution of the kinds of distinction, so that it was really just it was a little bit like those black and white or gray and white apparent static images, where if you focus just right in the middle distance, you see a form. It was like that, but without needing a particular focus. That the kind of bodies of my teammates and the space around became this relief of granular form in this way. And then it passed, I think it passed sufficiently quickly that there was no obstacle to being functional in that context. But it was a very clear perceptual change that made an impression and stuck with me. One of the other moments in adolescence, I suppose, or kinds of moments that I experienced repeatedly in this case, was while rock climbing. I was focused on rock climbing in my life between the ages of 15 and 25, and then more sporadically after that. And I had this recurring experience in which when I began to climb, I would have a kind of disconnect. I only came to know this experience in retrospect. That is to say, after a particular period of climbing a full pitch, I would recall or try to recall in order to communicate to my partner down below where I had gone, what choices I had made, what they might have needed to know. And I couldn't recall anything that had happened from the moment I started climbing to the moment I got to the top of the pitch. So there was this kind of full absorption, union, lack of time and space. It happened regularly, almost every, when I was climbing a lot and climbing well, and I think it was accentuated by being high in the mountains. So a particular kind of climbing. And I would just have this full gap between the beginning of a pitch and the end of a pitch. Again, a pitch is a section of climbing. Might take 10 minutes, might take an hour. And I would have a full absence, or as I came to think of it, a full absorption. This kind of experience is, so the first experience, the volleyball experience, is a kind of perceptual change that can happen as a result of prolonged, deep meditation. And prolonged in a single session, but more likely, at least in my 30s and 40s, continuous many days of the whole day focused on practice, can result in this sort of perceptual change in which everything is vibrating and alive, and even the air is viscous in this way, has form, and things are merely a variation of density and vibration. I think I'll circle back to that because in the period during my practice, during my life as a practitioner, there are other instances of that may be of interest. But this cessation of experience during rock climbing, in retrospect, is very interesting. And had I the context and understanding to allow that experience of the cessation and restarting of the perceptual world, I think it could have had the alchemical transformative impact that it later would when I encountered the same experience during meditation. So I'll add one more thing to this section, and that is a kind of visionary experience, which is to say, like an experience that was different than the before and after, but in which I saw time as space. So, and in this case, I did reflect on it a lot. It was maybe in my mid-20s, and try to understand the implications. If one were to kind of internally believe that the perception was real, which, as it has come to fit the way I see later in my life, I see it in retrospect as an accurate perception. But I came to see time as space. So I was looking out across time, had sort of relief, like a landscape. Oddly, it was a little bit more like a cityscape than a mountains and rivers landscape. But the physicality of time and the fixedness of time as I looked forward or back can have real implications on how we understand our experience of the world. So I don't want these videos to get too long, but I want to introduce those pre-practice, pre-cultivation experiences in order to make sense, in order to give you the opportunity to make sense of your own experience, even if you are in this phase before committed practice, in terms of the development of consciousness and the potential of these outlier experiences to change the way you understand reality. So that's it for now. I'll continue to add installments in this kind of narrative of experiential development in order to map my own experience in a way that I hope is useful for you, and map a progression of experience within cultivation that it's often productive to locate yourself within that territory. So that's it for now.